So, what if the deepest truth about our entire universe isn't some complex scientific law, but a relationship? The text we're digging into today explores this really profound idea that the ultimate revelation of God is as a father. And it argues that this one idea changes absolutely everything about how we see ourselves and the world. Let's get into it.
But first, let's back up for a second. We all struggle with this, right? Where do we find our ultimate sense of who we are? Is it our job, our family, our achievements? We spend our whole lives looking for something to anchor us. Well, the text we're examining suggests the answer is hiding in plain sight, in one single foundational truth.
All right, here's our roadmap. First, we'll tackle the main concept, the fatherhood of God. Then, we'll see how creation itself seems to respond to this. After that, we'll look at why Jesus is presented as the absolute key to this revelation. And to wrap it all up, we'll explore 5 practical, life-changing benefits that are said to come from all this.
Okay, let's start at the very beginning. The source we're looking at makes this huge claim. It calls it the fact behind all other facts. And that claim is that the universe wasn't just created by some impersonal force, but by a father. You know, at the heart of this whole argument is a really cool connection in the original Greek language. The word for family, which is patria, it comes directly from the word for father, pater. And the takeaway from that, it's huge. It means the very concept of family, of what it means to belong, is actually rooted in the idea of God as the original father.
And the Apostle Paul, he takes this even further. He writes that every single family, every fatherhood, gets its very name from God the Father. So this isn't just some nice poetic idea. The text is saying this is the actual reality. All our ideas about family are just echoes of that original relationship.
So, if the universe was created by a father, how does creation respond to that? Well, the source suggests that if you really look closely, you can see the whole world moving in this perfect, instinctive harmony with its creator.
I mean, think about it on a huge cosmic scale. There's this incredible sense of order. The sun and the moon aren't just following the laws of physics, they're portrayed as moving in this flawless rhythm with their creator's design. It's like a silent, instinctive obedience.
And it's not just the planets and stars. The text points to the animal kingdom too. Get this, even a powerful young lion, at the peak of its strength, is described as ultimately looking to God for its food. It's a pretty radical picture of dependence, isn't it?
But right here, the idea gets incredibly personal. The language shifts from a distant creator to something so much more intimate. It's no longer just God feeding the birds, but your heavenly Father. And that one word, Father, well, that changes everything.
And when this idea really truly clicks, it can change how you see the entire world. The source shares this great story about the evangelist Dwight Moody. After he had this realization, he said it was like the sun was smiling right at him. The birds were singing just for him, and in his own words, he was in love with all creation.
So this idea of God as a father was kind of always there, sort of in the background. But the text argues that everything, and I mean everything, changed with Jesus. He wasn't just another messenger, he was a whole different kind of messenger, bringing a revelation on a totally new level.
Okay, here's the key difference the source lays out. For centuries, you had the prophets delivering God's message in bits and pieces. It was like this ongoing conversation. But then, the book of Hebrews says, in these last days, God spoke in a final, complete way through a son. The message wasn't just information anymore. It was a person. It was a relationship. So what exactly was this name that Jesus revealed? The source argues it wasn't some new secret word for God. The name was the relationship. By consistently calling God Father, he was revealing a depth of intimacy that nobody had really grasped before. And this revelation is presented as something uniquely personal and exclusive. The text is pretty clear on this. It says, no one can truly know the Father except through the Son. So Jesus isn't just shown as a way to this understanding. He is positioned as the one and only gateway. Okay, so that's the big theological argument, but the source is quick to say, this is not just some abstract theory. It basically asks, so what? What does this actually mean for you and me in our day-to-day lives? And it lays out 5 huge transformative benefits that are supposed to come from really getting this. Once you grasp this, it's supposed to kick off this chain reaction. It starts by giving you a brand new identity. From that identity, you get a deep and lasting sense of self-worth. That leads to a certainty about where you're ultimately headed, a feeling of total security right now, and finally, a whole new motivation for everything you do. Let's break them down. First up, identity. You know that modern feeling of being a little lost, a little rootless? The source suggests this understanding is the permanent solution. If you're a child of God, then you know exactly who you are and exactly where you belong in the grand scheme of things. Your identity problem is just gone. And flowing right out of that new identity is the second benefit, self-worth. The text argues that your value is no longer based on how well you perform or what other people think of you. Instead, it's anchored in this unshakable fact that you are personally and individually loved as a child of God. The third benefit totally flips the script on our ultimate destiny. It changes death from this terrifying end into, believe it or not, a homecoming. The author puts it with such incredible simplicity, saying, "When I die, you can just write on my tombstone 2 words, gone home." That simple reframe brings this incredible sense of peace.
Fourth, this understanding is said to bring a feeling of total security, no matter how chaotic the world gets. The source gives us this powerful image. Just picture a small child held securely in their father's arms. The child is completely at peace, totally unconcerned, because they just know they're safe.
And finally, all of this leads to a brand new motivation for everything. That frantic drive to compete, to succeed, to get ahead, it just starts to fade away. And it's replaced by what the source calls a sweeter, purer motive, a simple desire to please the Father. And that naturally leads to harmony and caring for others, instead of just looking out for number one.
And this all brings us to one final, really provocative question from the text. This whole argument has laid out a path from just knowing about God to personally knowing God as Father. And it presents this as the final destination, the goal of the whole journey. And so we're left with this question to think about. If that's really the destination, why would anyone be content to just stay on the way?